What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Halfway to Halloween. First off the top, if you were having some issues with the feed, with the Con Guys video there for that last panel, just know we are going to re-upload the Con Guy video after this weekend, and we will get that thing loaded in full res. If you were having streaming issues with their video feed, we apologize, but let's talk some not just Halloween Horror Nights. Let's talk some Halloween. And to help me do it today, we have one half of the theme park duo. Gabe, what is going on, man?
How you guys doing today? I'm very excited to be talking anything and everything spooky in the world of Halloween. Us two at the theme park duo love Halloween. It's our favorite time of year. So anytime we have an excuse to talk about it, we're there.
Absolutely, man. And this is what this thing is all about. This Halfway to Halloween, it's all centered around people who love haunted houses, getting excited because this is typically the season that we get the haunted house announcements.
Yes.
And, we had some last second complications with our scheduling. I'm super stoked we're able to have at least one half of the theme park podcast.
That always tends to happen that way, just because if you guys haven't heard of us before, we actually have a 2-year-old. We talk about her on our show quite often, but one of us has to take care of her, and Nikki's just like, you know what, you're the bigger personality, you go do it. So that's what happens.
I gotta tell you, man, your guys is the way that you read, because my wife is starting to allow herself to be recorded on the podcast, but she hates being on my podcast. So for the longest time, we've had like round tables and stuff, and she'll come up and she'll whisper in my ear. She'll text my phone. She'll be like, "No, that's stupid." Like whatever. Now
that's
she's
funny.
But you guys, when you and Nikki, you're talking back and forth, like the chemistry you two have, it's very, very genuine and makes the conversation that much funner to listen to.
Yeah.
You remind me of me and my wife, man. Like I dig what you guys do. I dig the show a lot.
Well, I really appreciate the kind words. And, Nikki wasn't too different from your wife at the beginning of a lot of my kind of podcasting life, if you will, very nervous about sharing her thoughts and talking and sharing it with everyone, really. But the more she did it, the better she got at it. And I actually think that people tune in for her now because she gets really feisty and people really like it. So, we poke fun at each other all the time and just have pretty much a nonsensical amount of fun on the show. So I'm glad that you connect with it and you enjoy it.
Absolutely, man. Well, hey, you and I, in pulling you in for this, we came up with a kind of a dope idea. We said, hey, let's go around a little bit of a round table. We'll, as much as time allots for, but we'll pull, everyone gets 3 choices, top 3 haunted houses that they've been through. Doesn't have to be any brand, necessary at all. And to help us do this, to make it a little bit more fun, I have my co-host from Horrific Network and Campfire Chronicles, John, my co-promoter, Jay, and newest member of our team, Drew. And so with Gabe will give you the overall pick. So really all hats are off the table. I'll just say that, like anything, if you've been through a lot of houses in person that you think we can relate to, shout that out. if you know a movie and you want to go through a haunted house based on that movie, shout that out, or a comic book or whatever. If you're into comics and you're watching us live, man, shout out amazed that you would want to see a haunted house based off of your wildest dreams type of a thing. And Gabe,
oh man,
since theme park out duo, it's your guys' hour. The overall #1 draft pick goes to you, sir.
Oh jeez.
I don't know. I don't know if you want to pull. I don't know if you want to pull from HHN's past or what you want to do, but our haunt seasons past, I should say, a real haunt that we may have gone through. But go ahead.
Well, if we'll go with HHN first. I know that we kind of talked about, potentially going with haunts that aren't just Halloween Horror Nights. We have at least we are SoCal natives, so we have Scary Farm, Fright Fest, Halloween Horror Nights Hollywood. We have Queen Mary's Dark Harbor. I don't know anymore, but maybe moving forward they might still be around. 17th Door. There's just so much to choose from. But the first maze that I kind of think of off the top of my head of kind of like the best of Halloween Horror Nights is oh shoot, I just blanked. Oh my god. It was the darn Scarecrow maze at Halloween Horror Nights 27. Scarecrow the Reaping. Was that what it's called? Yeah. That to me was probably one of the scariest Halloween Horror Nights mazes I've been through. And it isn't necessarily because of, the design of the scarecrows themselves. It was the maze design, how claustrophobic it felt, the sound design, the trigger noises that they were using worked really well. Like at one point, I think there was like a squealing pig or some crap. Like, what the hell is that? It's like it sends shivers down your spine. We were not expecting it. So for me, that maze has to be on my list because of how many times I am embarrassed to say I got scared in that maze.
That just means it worked.
Yeah, it does. It just means it worked. Exactly.
So Gabe takes Scarecrow the Reaping off of the board. John, what's your #1 pick?
It's the one that we talked about in the pre-show. It's Trick or Treat at LA's Haunted Hayride. It's obviously not the scariest pick, but for me, it was just something so different as far as a haunt experience that it immediately stuck out and became one of my favorite walkthrough attractions that I've ever been through.
It's definitely one of those attractions where it has a nice balance of humor with the scary. And I think you definitely need that in these events, because if you're just all the way up here the entire time, things get tiresome. You don't get scared eventually. It's like, how could you be up there that entire time? So having that roller coaster effect of humor injected into this kind of scary atmosphere works so darn well.
Definitely. It was like a roller coaster. It gave you the lows to kind of bring you down, then brought you right back up.
Now, which iteration are you talking about? Because they did one that was more of a very straightforward kind of like through little houses. Then they had one that was a little bit more like open and a lot more characters involved. So there was a couple iterations. Which one are you talking about?
The one just from the past year that they were able to open, I think it was 2019.
2019, okay.
Yeah, that one where they I think it's the one you're talking about where it's a little bit more open.
Yeah.
And they had like the Frankenstein Tiki Hawaiian house theme.
Yes.
They had the haunt within a haunt, which I loved that story.
Yeah.
I thought that was just so cool.
Yeah, and then you also it was like a hillbilly biker werewolf who was sitting there drinking beers, and he's like burping, and he's like offering you a beer, and then you get close and he comes at you, stuff like that. No, it was a blast. I completely agree.
Yeah, it was a fun experience, that's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Any maze that does like the meta universe thing, I think is kind of a cool thing.
Mm-hmm.
So, Jay, what would be like the #1 haunted house? Jay used to work. What you were doing, like security or something at HHN?
No, I was the streets lead on the FX crew for HHN Orlando for the year that was Bloody Mary in Orlando and the following year, which was Legends of the Silver Scream, which the Wolfman was the big house that year.
Yeah.
But so I was streets. I wasn't in the house. So when I saw all those houses those 2 years, it was from above in a catwalk, looking down, watching people get scared. That's how I see haunts. I don't go through haunts. I see them from above. And I get to watch you guys get scared as the stuff comes at you. So in watching and knowing people that make the Halloween Horror Nights in Orlando, there's little things that I've always, not ones that I've walked through, but I'm like, I want to see somebody master this. And there's a franchise that I love that I think is perfect fodder for a haunted house, that I think it could be pulled off well if you have people that A, know well how to scare people, and B, know something about puppets, because Puppet Master, that entire franchise, if you were in a claustrophobic haunted house where from any little random crack and crevice a puppet can come at you, I think, and multiple of them, I think that's scarier than most of the haunted houses I've already seen.
Jay, you need to go play Universal, man, because they've said that they're going to do a puppet house,
puppet theater,
puppet theater house this year. That's like
really
a theater, yeah.
They released some footage of it during quarantine. They actually filmed somebody going through it with the scare actors in there wearing the costumes and the masks and the makeup and everything, and it looks pretty fun.
I'm gonna have to check that footage out. That'll be awesome.
Drew, what about you, man?
So I'm gonna go on a whim here. I'm gonna go on another franchise that I'd like to see put into a haunt, and I'm gonna go with probably the Insidious franchise.
They've done that at Halloween Horror Nights.
Oh, I don't really go to a lot of horror nights. But
that's why. Yeah, okay.
So Drew, he's not. He's an HHN virgin, but I will say that
always wanted to go, just never had the time.
I will say that to your credit, though, man, what you just said, I've always thought that the Insidious houses are always one of the strongest of the year when they come out.
Yeah, I mean, you could do so much with that. Like, just if you think about it, you can do the face behind the dad in the room where, you see the boy and then you just see the red face on the back. You're like, okay, you can do a lot with it.
Yeah.
And that movie, I don't know. Just maybe it's possession movies. They just freak me the shit out. I don't know.
Well, that movie really lends itself really well to a maze format. Having been through one of the mazes, visually there's a lot of things to pull from. But on top of that, if you're looking at it from an audio perspective too, Joseph Bashira's his soundtrack that he made for that film is just completely terrifying. Because I don't know if you guys know this, and I just found this out recently. But for that film, he literally found this big, beaten up, old, rusty piano in a back alley. He brought it into a studio, and all those jump scare, boom moments are literally just this rusty old piano that he's just bashing on to create jump scare moments. And having that implemented as a trigger noise just is top notch to me. And that movie. Am I allowed to cuss on this? Am I allowed to cuss?
Go ahead.
That movie fucked me up. It fucked me up bad. I saw that movie and I was sleeping with the lights on. It was the first horror movie in a long time that really did that to me. So when I went into the maze, I was like, sweaty palms, no thanks, and I still did it and I had fun. But man,
did they seeing as I didn't go through the haunt and you did, and pretty much probably everybody in this freaking panel did.
I'm so sorry.
Sorry. It's okay. But what I'm saying is, okay. At least there's two of us. Thank God. I'm not the only one. But what I was going to say is, did they end up putting a scene in there where it's just frozen people? No. When he's walking through the dream, or not, it's not the dream state. The further. And he just shines a light and it's just, dude, you could do that in a haunt and I'm sorry, Jimmy. I'm gonna cuss here. You could do that in the haunt and fuck somebody's day up really badly. Oh my
just
lord!
face to face, just like right like that.
And then
They had
it's
some
like
static
mannequin,
figures in the
mannequin,
brother,
mannequin,
but-
real person, son of a bitch.
Yeah, they did have some static figures, and they did have, at least in Hollywood, they had actors, but nothing to that extent, because I don't think those theme parks would allow that type of a scare to happen. Now, if some like a haunted hayride or some other kind of independent company was running it, then maybe they'd be able to do something like that. But I mean, like I think it was Insidious 2, where they had the big guy who was like, "I have your baby. They've got your baby. They've got your baby."
That was creepy.
He was standing like there, and they would shine a light on him as people were approaching him, and you wouldn't be able to see him at first. So they did do something similar, just not quite there.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many franchises. You can throw Annabelle in there if you really wanted to.
Yeah.
Because, like the part where she's running up the stairs and you just see the hand of the demon and then you hear the hooves following.
Yeah.
You're like, I don't know about that.
Any James Wan film can do really well.
They've never done one like on one of the spin-offs, the Conjuring spin-offs. They didn't. They've done
Horror Made Here,
but it wasn't the Conjuring La Llorona. It was their own La Llorona, but they've never done like what the hell is the other one? They had
Annabelle.
Annabelle?
Yeah, they've never done like an Annabelle maze at Halloween Horror Night.
Yeah, they've only done one at Horror Made Here at WB when that was happening, which that was much more than just a walk-through attraction. It was much more of a walk-through. You get scared, watch a scene play out, and that sort of stuff, which was actually really, because they had plants and some really cool effects.
And that actually leads me to my number one pick. I'm glad you brought that up there, Gabe. WB, the second year they did Horror Made Here, produced an experience that I have not seen. And my first round thing that I want at my haunt park is not actually a haunt at all. I want it to be on the tram ride Horror Made Here experience from the second year that they did it, because I don't know, man. I'm not really a judgmental person, so maybe I was in a frame of mind that made this moment very special. Maybe it was just one of those very special moments overall. But the WB tram ride, after we went through the House of Wax set and whatever else they kind of like force feed down your throat, that's cool. That's cool. They drop you off, and you're at the set of Creature from Black Lagoon. They don't tell you that. They tell you because it's Freddy versus Jason. Even my dog loves this story so much. They tell you it's Freddy versus Jason, but you walk up to the set of Creature from Black Lagoon, which is now Camp Crystal Lake, and the way that they lit it and the fog effects that they had with it and everything, like, imagine walking up like a 30-foot incline hill, and at the top of the hill, like backlit perfectly with fog, little like movie set moat, like the whole nine, is Jason Voorhees on a boat dock. And he turns his head and he sees you and he starts making his way up the boat dock. And he's coming at full Jason speed for you. Like he's directly
just like 5 miles per hour.
Yeah,
give or take.
Yeah.
You can make it. Just don't trip over the hidden
but
branch.
heavy
that's not there.
steps. But hey, you may be able to make it. I can't do it in my heels.
It's totally like one of these, like, oh shit, he's coming for me, like moment.
Yeah.
And so that like experience, that WB Horror Made Here tram experience from 2018, I think it was. That's my number one draft pick. If you could guarantee me that same experience every time I rode their tram.
That experience definitely sticks out of my head, only because that was the last time my wife went to pregnant, and the next day we had our kid.
Holy
So, but that experience of, and I think it was called, correct me if I'm wrong, but I thought it was called Nightmare on Camp Crystal Lake or something to that effect.
It's something like that.
Yeah, it was something along those lines. But I completely agree with you. It kind of very much lent itself to be able to place you right in the film and feel like you're, at Crystal Lake. And not only that, but they did play around with allowing you to kind of just be in that environment and not really overdoing it in terms of sound design or lighting and things like that. If you're walking through the forest, you're in the forest. Like they allow that to kind of just be. And I remember walking down one of those paths, and it's just quiet. It's just crickets going on, and this camp counselor who's all bloody up just comes running, help me! And I was like, geez. The last thing you expect to happen, well, I mean, kind of expected, but
there's one guy on that trail that freaking just absolutely drilled me, and it was right at the end when you're coming to like down, and from your perspective, you see the back of like a blonde hair camp counselor. And she's waving, and she's like, "Oh, okay, bye-bye. Like, thank you for coming." And when you got up to her, she spun around, and it was actually Freddy.
Yeah, it's wonderful.
Scared the shit out of me. Like that. I mean, like, and it's stuff like that, man. Like, if you're a fan of Halloween Horror Nights, that makes you mad about the last couple years of Halloween Horror Nights. If WB can scare me with a fake Freddy Krueger and a blonde wig, there's no excuse for Stranger Things 2 Halloween Horror Nights Hollywood. There's no excuse.
That out of context, that doesn't sound very right. Out of the context of a WB horror made here, I got scared by a wig and a guy in a mask.
Well, I mean,
they pulled it off.
Wouldn't a guy in drag scare you as well? I mean,
maybe it depends. I don't know. It depends on the situation. I mean, if I'm walking in the forest at night and there's a person in drag, then maybe. But if I were at a drag show, I'd be having fun.
I was gonna say this. There was one permanent haunt at Universal I used to really like, and that was the one that had like the Van Helsing set in it.
Yes.
I can't remember what was it called.
I'm pretty sure it was just Van Helsing.
Yeah. But it also and then it morphed into Van Helsing
it had a colon name after it.
Yeah, it was Van Helsing blank.
Yeah.
And that was the same one that was a mummy maze, and that was the same one that was a Scorpion King maze, and the one that turned into Monsters maze. I
like the classic monster one too that was in there because I mean
it was very well done.
Yeah.
House of Horrors.
Yeah, House of Horrors was good.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'll be damned if a freaking Norman Bates didn't get me and almost jack me with his freaking fake knife. I swear to you. Like, because you know how like you're in a haunt and then you lock eyes and you're like, I see you. So you're done. I see you. This dude's like, all right, and he turns around and I'm just like, all right, I'm good. And wham! And he fucking jabs the knife almost in my gut. I'm like, what the I don't do too well with that because then the fight or flight syndrome kicks in and you just want to hit somebody in the face. Hence why I don't like going.
I think one of the best parts about having that maze is that exit was like in a major thoroughfare of that park of USH, and people would just stand there and wait for the Chucky with a chainsaw or a monster with a chainsaw for those people coming out and just watching them crap their pants every single time. And that was so much fun.
It was always weird when you ran out onto that street too, because you always would run fast from that guy, but no one on that street, everyone on that street is always walking so slow. You'd always run into someone, someone with a stroller, or some old man or woman. You'd be just shoulder kicking like a hockey game as you come out of there.
I could just see Jimmy running out. Every man for himself. Shut up.
Yeah. Okay, well, round two, Gabe. What's your second pick then?
So this is something that I've talked about on our show multiple times, and I think it would be a very, very fun property to use for any haunt at any location, really. But it would have to be done in a particular way to kind of keep guests kind of off guard, if you will. Now, I don't think any maze in HHN history or Scary Farm history, any park, any haunt at all does a twist within the middle of their haunt, in the middle of their maze. What I want is for whatever park it is to pick any IP they want. I don't care what it is. It could be Hellraiser, it could be Predator, it could be anything. But right in the middle of the maze, Gremlins just freaking take over, and then it's Gremlins running amok in the middle of this maze. And it's not the concept of Gremlins fighting whatever monsters in the other IP. It's literally Gremlins infesting the maze. And then it's this like pseudo meta situation of like, am I really in danger? I don't know.
Yeah.
And just
did this just happen?
Love it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And then you kind of you infuse what I had talked about earlier is that humor into the maze, which I think is so wonderful because it really catches people off guard because you're so busy laughing, you're not expecting the scare to happen. And there's a lot of things you could pull from Gremlins 1 and 2 to kind of incorporate into that kind of coming at you feel. So I think that would be super fun.
And the best part would be the first scare with the gremlin like puppet on them to just jump out and see the confusion on people's faces. Just like, wait, what?
See, I would want it to be. It's hard to do because if you're doing that, it's literally like spoiling a movie for somebody if you tell them, and you can't. Like if you're not there on opening day, you're gonna get it spoiled because people are gonna be like, "Oh my god, it's a Gremlins maze!"
No, you get it spoiled right away.
Yeah, you get it spoiled immediately. But I do think that there's something really cool in going into a maze thinking that it's this one IP, and then literally you walk into a scene and gremlins are attacking the actors, and the gremlins are attacking like the people who are in like cloaks, making sure you're safe.
The perfect setup for you. So midway through the maze, there's something that'll be rear projected through just a film screen. And as you enter that room, that's where the gremlins rip through the screen.
Oh my god!
And start getting after the characters.
So good.
You just walk in, it's just like every other room you've just been in where suddenly now it's been torn away.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that would work well.
Yeah, no, I love the idea. You could do, I don't even think you have to do like it based on an actual movie. I think you could do like an original concept, but halfway through, Gremlins have just ripped apart the maze. Yeah, and so you could go through haunted house areas that are meant to be like the makeup area. So you could go through like makeup tables where like scare actors are supposed to be getting ready to go scary.
Getting ready.
Kind of like Dark Ride and Not Scary Farm.
Yeah, you're going backstage.
I was thinking
yeah, but it's just Gremlins just ripping everything apart.
That'd be perfect.
That'd be super dope.
A lot of blackout actors in that maze if it ever happens. Lots of blackout actors.
Yeah.
Yeah. And puppeteers.
John, what's your number 2, John?
For me, it's I'm gonna go with a scare factor, and I'm gonna go with Lullaby from Queen Mary's Dark Harbor. Every time I go through that one, for some reason, they get me every freaking time.
Because it involves kids.
Go through it. Exactly.
Kids are scary.
Like I could literally go through that maze, turn around, get back in line, go through it again, and somebody will move or something, and they get me again. Like every time, it never fails. Plus, just being on the ship is terrifying.
100%. I mean, you can't really beat the environment of the ship. You hear the water hitting it. You hear like leaking and dripping, which isn't a great thing, but I mean, it added to the ambiance. And it's funny because I watched my video back from 2019 when I went, and I got scared, and I literally yelled, "Jesus Christ!" And I turned my camera, and there's like a Mary standing like in the shadows, and as she backs up into the shadow, she goes, "There is no Jesus Christ." And she just like disappears, and I'm like, "Oh,
oh man!" But see, I love the freedom that actors have. Mm-hmm.
That sounds like
the freedom for them to kind of say what they want and be in the character. I mean, I've seen the Marys even when they leave the haunt and they're like running to go take a break or something. They're still in character, running around, 100%. Skipping, like singing lullabies. It's terrifying.
I think Queen Mary is very unique in that sense because their actors are given so much freedom. I honestly compare it to a Scary Farm, where I feel like Scary Farm actors out in the streets have a lot of freedom. It's very similar,
Yes.
and a lot of that passion really comes through, and they do a really good job. And I mean, you don't have to try super hard to scare people inside that ship because it's quite claustrophobic.
No.
So many shadows,
It's so dark too.
so many tight corners. I mean, it's a
And so
scare
much
actor's
history.
dream. So much history too, and the fact
Yeah.
that Queen Mary or at least
Your
Dark Harbor
mindset's
kind of
already
feeds off of
there
that.
before anything gets thrown into a storyline. You already are ready. So yeah, that's a perfect
Mhm.
location.
It's
Isn't
like
it
it's like you
I
see
mean,
a monster, and you're like, was that a real monster? Or was that a real ghost?
Right?
right? I mean, it is haunted, right?
Yeah, it's 100%
Yeah.
haunted. I've
Yeah, that's what I thought.
I've experienced
You
a
can
handful
feel
of
it.
things on that ship, and when it happens, it's kind of. There's been a few times where I've been like, "Did that happen?" And then there's been other times where it's just completely jarring, and you want to just kind of get off and go take a breath outside before you come back in.
Yeah.
Yeah, I I have a different story about something like that, but yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Well, I mean, is it like mine where a ghost tried to go into the bathroom while I was trying to poop?
Uh,
Literally,
no,
like the door
Hey,
swung
hey.
open.
It was trying to help you.
no. So in my
Fear
younger
is an amazing laxative.
yes, in my younger days, I used to like run network cables with a guy, and run networking for computers, and we were doing a networking job at Stanislaus State out by my house, and we're running through the child ward, and he's like, all right, hey, and the guy's like, I want to take you on a tour, come check this out. And he takes us into a freaking room that is completely tiled from wall to wall, and in the middle is just a drain. It was the children's what am I thinking?
Shower?
No,
Shower room?
no.
No,
Where you cut the Jesus.
the morgue.
The morgue, yes,
It
a
is,
children's
oh.
morgue.
Oh,
Yeah,
God.
so you literally step in, you don't know what you're in, and then he tells you it's the children's morgue, and you're just like
I know
every
that
single
room
hair
at
on the back of my
Stanislaus
neck
State.
just stood up, and I was like, I need to go. This isn't cool because like you could just feel like
The
the,
energy.
presence and energy.
Yeah.
I'm just like, I gotta go.
Yeah.
I gotta go. But anyways, I'm sorry. I digress from my point. I'll let other people talk.
That's a
I'm
better
sorry.
story than mine about a ghost walking in on me pooping.
I
Hey, but
don't
I'm pretty
know.
pretty sure you released.
Oh no.
What was that? Oh,
Ghost
Done.
poop is probably the scariest because you never know if you're going to be able to pick it up. You just like, is this ghost poop ever going to go away? My hand just keeps going through it. Like, am I ever going to be able to actually get it out of my house? Holy
I
shit!
keep slipping on something and I can't see it.
Yeah. Jay. Okay. Jay.
So the first year I worked at Halloween Horror Nights in Orlando, this wasn't a house, this was a scare zone, and it's a combination of the story that they did, and they've used it for other scare zones later on, and I believe they've used it, you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, for house at least one house later on. But the year that I went, it was that first year of the story of the school bus on Halloween going off the cliff. This was before Trick or Treat came out. This was a year before that was even made. And you'd walk through at the scare zone, you'd walk through the schoolhouse and see all the empty desks.
And they had they had a old white, like Dickens looking teacher that would
Yes.
Yeah.
And then that led you straight to the New York streets where all the lights were out except for the jack-o'-lanterns and the trees, and we would pump the fog through there. I know that because I was in charge of the fog, and my superiors would always yell at me and say, hey, can you turn it down to a 6 because we're getting some complaints? And then I would turn it down to a 6, and all the characters would come up to me and go, hey, I'll buy you a Starbucks if you turn it up to a 9 again. So I kept turning it up again because it was easier that way. But I'd seen so many people get scared in that zone, and it's exactly what John was saying that you said, Gabe. It was little kids. It was a story of little kids. So they hired shorter characters. And I remember vividly one girl, and I'll share this story from HHN. So I'm hiding in a corner with my headlamp off, and I'm just waiting for a call on my walkie to go check the foggers or whatever I need to do at that night. And this woman goes by, and I see this character actor who ended up winning Character of the Year that year at Halloween Horror Nights, skipping behind them in a little pink dress with a bunny mask on and a butcher knife. And they don't hear her. These two women are drunk off their asses, and they do not hear her skipping. And she realizes they haven't heard her make her normal noise. So then she goes into stealth mode, and she crouches down lower, sneaks up to where her bunny ears are almost right between where the space between them walking are. And she pops her head up between them and goes, trick or treat. They fly apart so far, and one of them lands on the ground and starts screaming, Margaret, Margaret, I just pissed my pants. She stands up, and sure enough, her jeans are soaked.
Oh my God.
And I'm like, in my entire life of going to horror movies and horror events and all of this, I've never seen someone in front of me piss themselves out of fear. But this drunk lady did, and I'm like, that's the maze I want to walk through. It's that one. If you can capture that moment throughout that entire scare zone of that little kid and get those same people. I found out years later, or later that year, by the way, that character usually is Tinkerbell at Disney World. And so she takes October off to release all of her bad thoughts throughout a year at Disney World being Tinkerbell in order to scare the shit out of people at Universal for a month.
That's great. I love it.
So that I want that scare zone, that what Trick or Treat did at the beginning, but I want an entire scare zone with the schoolhouse and the field behind the house, and I love it. I can't wait.
That is a solid pick, Drew. What would you pick?
You know, I'm gonna go something outside the box, just because I thoroughly enjoyed this film when I was a kid. I'm gonna throw Suspiria out there, some Dario Argento.
Ooh, the lighting. The
lighting
phenomenal.
budget on
color.
that house is going to be through the roof.
Because of all the different colors he uses. Like his
Yeah.
color palette in his movies are just insane. Not to mention the practical effect use that he did was intense, to say the least.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that could make a really good haunt.
Like, imagine walking down a hallway and there's this big window at the end of the hallway. And
Yeah.
you see these eyes just open up in the darkness behind the window, and a hand scare busts through that window to scare at people as they're walking by.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Phenomenal.
The soundtrack would be off the chain too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I know. I'm gonna give you guys the obscure ones, but that's okay.
Oh, that's not I love that idea.
Dario
Serious.
Argento knows how to do it.
Oh yeah. There's a reason why he kept making films forever.
Well, because that was a part of a trilogy, right? If I'm not mistaken, Suspiria was a part of a trilogy because they have one called Inferno.
Yeah,
that he did. That's a part of that, and then there was one in between it. But
I can't remember what that one is though.
I can't remember what the middle one is because I'm going on, like, I just started watching the documentary Into the Darkness 2, and like they're going through all of the 80s films, and you watch all of this stuff, and the stylization of, I've watched Suspiria many times, but the stylization of the movies that they did for the Italian style is just intense, and I think that's why it would make a good haunt.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Right,
an entire haunt just based on the Gallo era of filmmaking right there.
Oh yeah, that's a trip.
Yeah.
They did a whole section on him in that documentary.
Rightfully so.
Yeah.
So for my second pick, we may only get 2 out here. I'm looking at the clock, but like everyone's like bottling expenses for round 2. It seems like our bottling experiences, I should say, for round 2. Like if you could package something and make it, a certain way. So last year, obviously, Halloween Horror Nights 30 got delayed. I don't know. Gabe? Are you guys going to the East Coast? Are you going to HHN 30?
Tickets are bought.
Yeah. So same.
Like there was any doubt.
But let me ask you this: Are you guys going to the Boo Bash?
The Boo Bash? What's that? Oh, are you talking about the Boo Bash at Walt Disney World?
Yeah.
No.
Wait, is it sad that he said that fast? Like
No.
Honestly, the thing is
that is
like,
a person who knows his likes and dislikes, and there's no reason to stray.
I am a Disney person as well as a horror person, but with those details, I'll pass. I'll save my money for Blinky Cups.
I was gonna say the Theme Park 2.0 is definitely a Disney positive podcast, but yeah, the Boo Bash. I don't know if I'm gonna fly all the way to Florida from California. I may have to do the Boo Bash, but
maybe. We criticize when we need to, though. I do want to say that.
That is true.
I'm sorry. Did nobody run that name through any type of PR firm?
No.
Okay.
Boo Bash, dog. We're Boo Bash.
No. I get it. No. Boo Bash is one of my favorite
came up
things.
with that name. Some intern did. They're like, "What would you name this?" Oh, Boo Bash. So like out from the peanut gallery.
If you don't think the chorus of that Disney cavalcade, because it's not a parade, it's a cavalcade. Remember. Which kudos to Disneyland California Adventure on how they're doing their character situation. I meant like 19 characters, and in Florida I meant like none. So that's another story. But Cavalcade, Florida, Boo Bash, you can guarantee the chorus is going to be something along the lines of, yeah, we're Boo Bashing, Disney, something bullshit, Boo Bashing. Like, that's how the Halloween song.
I think you just got the job to write the song. I think you just got the job.
You're hired.
They're actually just going to take the audio from this recording and use that.
Yeah. And then they'll sue you when you put this on. When people, they're going to turn around and go, copyright infringement. You stole our Boo Bashing song.
That's my voice.
That's me.
Man.
Oh boy, no, it isn't. Oh God. Okay, we're not even gonna get to another pick. I'll wrap the thing up. I'll tell you one thing before we let Gabe go. If you could bottle, coronavirus took a lot. Took Halloween Horror Nights 30 from all of us, man. But if you could wrap the experience I had, coincidentally, I was at HHN Light on whatever media day they were having, and I was there early enough where they just kind of assumed I was media. I didn't this was unbeknownst to me until like halfway through the process of what we were doing, and they just right this way, and I was like, okay, yes, absolutely, cool, Halloween Horror Nights, yes, and like they sent me through that Tooth Fairy maze completely alone, and they allowed me to like take a couple pictures and stuff. And it wasn't until after the fact that like when someone said, yeah, they would never allow you to take a picture as good as this is unless you were someplace that you weren't supposed to be. I'm like, well, shit. Like, I'm not going to tell anybody, first of all. So, but
don't mind me.
That, even with all their Rona precautions, going through that maze like totally alone and having every scare actor queued up exactly
just
where they
for you.
Yeah. They absolutely destroyed. Yeah, like I was talking about that lady peeing her pants or that girl peeing her pants.
Yeah.
I know how she felt.
Did you pee a little?
What?
You dropped a little, didn't you? Just
From
a
an
little.
actor's point of view, that's genius because you know exactly what reaction you're getting. You know exactly you've got one target. Usually when you have multiple targets, it's harder to hit. But you got one person going through.
Down the
God,
center.
maybe they should do that. Maybe that should be another craze in haunts is just nope, single file, one at a time. When we
Yeah.
know that one's out the door, the back door,
Yeah.
now we're sending the next one in.
Well,
And
I-
just see what that does.
I mean,
I'd have
that's
to
kind
say,
of like
though,
what
you-
those unique
Oh.
experiences are, where you go one at a time and
Mhm.
and have those
Yeah.
more intimate experiences as opposed to like kind of like a house or a haunt that you would typically know it as. You know,
Yeah.
that's what those are kind of similar to that. Which if we had another pick, I would have talked about something. But
We'll finish it off, man. It's your hour. You get your one bonus pick. What's the bonus?
well, I think someone else wanted to say something, so I'll let somebody else.
I was just gonna say, one at a time sounds great when you think about it until you're waiting in that line for 9 hours to get into the haunt.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. I'm
How
like,
is that
you're not
any
wrong.
different
You're not
from
wrong.
any other theme park line?
That's why you have Express.
actually, when I went to Disneyland, me and my wife actually were some of the select few that actually got to go grand reopening day, and it was emotional and fun. And I gotta meet up with. Wait, hold on. I gotta see where he is. He's right there above me. I gotta meet up with Jimmy at Disneyland, and it was a blast. I mean, we literally walked. Yeah, I get it, guys. Stop pointing. we literally walked on every ride, and it was probably the best experience that I've had in Disney in probably like 2 or 3 years. It was pretty awesome.
From a lot of people that I heard, it was a very emotional experience.
Oh, dude, the beginning, walking in, and you're walking down Main Street, and on each side of the sidewalk is literally CEOs, executives, just regular employees, and they're all just waving at you, saying, "Oh, welcome back. We're glad to have you," and all this. Like, you can hear it in their voices, like how happy they were, and like I didn't cry, but there was people. I mean, I was getting misty-eyed. Don't get me wrong, but I didn't cry about it, but. Like, I could see why people would be emotional and cry for it. Because I
You
mean,
wept like a baby, and you
you didn't hear that.
I
Stop
would have
it.
cried. I would have cried. I don't
I'll
care.
be damned if they don't do that at Halloween Horror Nights and not Scary Farm and all that this year, though. You
Well,
watch.
I mean, yeah.
There's gonna
Guarantee
be-
you. I
there's
will
gonna
cry
be
when I go to
some kind
Scary
of
Farm.
stuff, HHN 30 opening night, you watch
Yep.
that after not having it for a year. You watch what they do. You think they ain't gonna do something special? You're crazy.
Yep.
100%.
But here, let's let him get his last pick. I'm sorry. That was my.
No, you're fine. No,
Yeah,
that's. I
What's
think it's
what's
cool to
the
talk about
bonus
it.
thing, man?
So, bonus, at least for me, and I would hate myself if I didn't get to talk about Scary Farm, because Scary Farm is my favorite thing of all time, hands down, no questions asked. I have a Not Scary Farm K tattooed on my leg. That's
Yeah.
how big of a fan
Nice.
I am of Scary Farm.
That's
Wow.
pretty intense.
Yeah, no, very much so.
You're gonna steal
Um,
John. He's gonna go work for you.
But so it's kind of a tie because you had mentioned a maze, it's like kind of going one by one. So for me,
Trapped.
one thing I want to mention is Trapped. Trapped at Knott's was phenomenal year 1 and year 3. Year 2, year 1 and 3, phenomenal. Being able to go through in very small groups, just your group, and go through these really tailored, specific situations where it's only you in the middle of it, whether or not that's, crawling through a cage and somebody's above you trying to get at you, or year 3 where you're in a room and you have to drink fake pee to get out, or even at the very last room to get out of year 3, they put you up on a gallows and you see the nooses, and basically, like, to leave, you have to die. So you get up on the gallows, you turn around, they put a hood over your head so you see nothing. Then they put a weighted rope around your neck. So you think, uh-oh. So it's like pulling on you, and you're standing there. The music's building, and the floor just goes, phoop, just a little bit. Just enough to make you go pee-pee, just a little bit.
Yeah.
And the reason why I remembered this or thought about this is because you talked about your pee story. And
I'm glad that he helped so many people come up with their stories.
Well, like the people who created it basically said that they were watching on the cameras, and this girl, they were kept calling people over like, this girl's gonna pee. This girl's hands down gonna pee.
Oh yeah.
So they were sitting there watching the cameras as that floor dropped. They're like, she peed.
Right
She
away.
peed.
Oh.
She peed. And by the way, that scene, like sometimes people have dogs with them, like
Service
guide dogs, service dogs. They hang the dogs.
Of course.
But yeah, so there's Trapped. Trapped was a very special, unique experience. And then for the last, or at least 2019, a new maze for 2019, they basically did a maze that explained Haunt. It was it was the Curse of Calico, and they basically gave the history of why Scary Farm is Scary Farm, and the history behind Sarah Marshall turning into the Green Witch. And they did such a good job. And everybody talks about storytelling in haunts and mazes and what's the story, how does it work? And more often than not, the story is really, really loose. It's really about going through and being in the environments and things like that. This is the first maze I went through that I felt like the story was so fleshed out and communicated in a way that made you understand it as you were traversing the maze. And not only that, the people who made it, it was, John Cook and Ted Doherty, all of those guys, they care so much about the history that they're putting so much stuff into it for every single dork like me to find, whether or not that's, going through the haunted shack and then there's a skeleton of Seymour sitting on a chair up on the wall.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how amazing is that? I remember coming out of that maze and just being completely like emotional just because it's such a love letter to the fans and to the event. And I mean, how could you beat a Catawampus monster if you guys know what the Catawampus is? Catawampus is amazing. You could if you guys ever come on our show, make fun of Nikki because she got scared of the Catawampus monster.
Well, right on, man.
That's my bonus.
And that's a great one to wind up on. Gabe, I thank you, dude, for taking the time out to be part of Halfway to Halloween with us. This was a hell of a lot of fun. Everybody check out Theme Park Duo. However you listen to podcasts or on YouTube, they got some cool YouTube videos out there as well. And yeah, man,
Thank you so much. Thank you. It was a blast.
No, absolutely. Thank you. Coming up still, man, we got that Fright Sanity play along live stream thing here coming up to close out night number 1. But we will be back with you guys here in just a couple of minutes. So stay tuned and stay with us.